Before we start this video, I want to wish you a Merry New Year, compliments of Christmas, and a happy season. In no specific order exactly.
Merry New Year! Happy New Year.
Now, usually this is the time of the year where we all get to relax for a long holiday with our families, maybe watch some old 80s Child Left at Home during Christmas and He Almost Destroys the House movies. And just generally take some time off from an exhausting year. As a matter of fact, I'm taking time off myself by treating myself to some good old-fashioned animated stories on YouTube.
Hi, I'm Xavier, and I know you're probably thinking the title is just clickbait. Nope, my mom really does love my cream. I know it sounds weird, but my story is actually more a series of unfortunate events that have got me into a rather messy situation. Let me explain.
And honestly, something tells me I'm about to regret this choice. I'm sure after listening to that brief intro, you can already figure out what brand of cream his mom is showing interest in. A theme I've noticed, which isn't really that hard once you take a closer glance at any of these animated story channels, is the videos are either sexual, creepy, or just borderline weird and completely nonsensical. Take this one for example from True Stories. I paid my sister to do stuff for me. Sounds exciting enough?
Hi, I'm Johnny, and for me, lockdown's been pretty messed up. It hasn't really brought my family together in the way you might have expected. Thankfully, my older sister Belle is pretty chill and hasn't been too down about losing her waitressing job. She spends all day in her room doing whatever girls do. Probably watching stupid makeup tutorials and shopping up a storm online if the mountain of packages that keep arriving for her are anything to go by. I don't know how she affords it. Anyway, I'm not much of a gamer and books are for simps. So I'd usually just be on my laptop checking out random sites on the internet. Incognito, of course, if you know what I mean.
To keep the weird tale short, the protagonist in the story says he's had enough of all the fake stepsister stuff he's been consuming on a sketchy website in incognito mode, and then decides to take matters into his own hands. He goes into his own sister's room, steals her credit card, and then he uses it to pay for private live streaming services.
The next day, when boredom overcame me, I started browsing live cam sites. You know, the ones where you donate to the actresses as they entertain you.
And then the session starts as any regular drama starts.
She wore a face mask, but it was the tiny nurse's uniform clinging to an amazing body that got my attention. Man, was she hot. I quickly whipped out the photo of my sister's credit card and entered the details online.
It builds up gradually, and when it gets to climax,
I watched with bated breath as she reached up and gently freed the elastic from behind her ears, then slowly lifted the mask up to reveal her face. What the hell? It was Belle, my sister!
he finds out it has always been his sister all along. What is the moral here? Usually with good stories, there's always something to be learned at the end, or at the very least there's a catch, so if we find ourselves in a similar situation as the characters in the story, we'll know what not to do or what to do in that situation. But after watching several of these stories, I can't seem to find anything meaningful at the end of any of them. So he eventually finds out his sister has found a way to work from home by satisfying her fans with her online services, and since automatically he has become one of her fans, he can't look at her the same anymore.
My sister seems completely oblivious to the fact that I was one of her clients, but I'm struggling to even look her in the eye while those images are burned into my brain. Do you think I should tell her?
And then he begins to feel guilty since he used her own credit card to pay for her services, and he definitely doesn't even want to tell her he used her card for the transaction, which is just totally going to be awkward. The story was just filled with a lot of sexual innuendos, and then at the end he asks the audience what they would have done if they were in his shoes. And speaking for myself, I would walk outside to the nearest dumpster and quietly fold myself inside. Most of the time the stories animated on these channels are just made up and overly heightened to accentuate the drama in a bit to make them more entertaining for the audience, but 9 times out of 10 they end up not making a lot of sense, especially the ones on the smaller channels. For bigger channels like My Story Animated, which has over 1 billion views across the entire channel and over 5 million subscribers, which are ridiculously amazing stats here, not like I'm jealous or anything. I mean, they prefer to provide teenagers and adults with the most interesting and life-changing stories, with examples such as, I have been raising my mom while she raised me. My boyfriend tricked me to get a tattoo of his ex. Dad replaced me with a boy to please my psycho mom. I really don't know what to expect here. With titles like this, we can definitely expect our lives are going to be changed after watching any of these videos. And it's going to be for the worse. So we're going to ignore all logic and exceptions and just believe the higher the views, the better the video, right? Therefore, we are going to watch I Followed My Crush to the Basement, which has over 12 million views. So let's get ready for a life-changing story, Cats and Kittens.
I was running through the rain trying to get home as quickly as possible.
Did you notice that running animation? She's supposed to be running forward, but it looks like she's running sideways while staying in the same position.
When I noticed my crush James walking onto the school grounds, I didn't want him to see me like this. I was soaked to the bone, looking like a drowned rat.
But why does she think her crush will notice how wet she is and complain about it when both of them are still under the rain together?
But I had to know what he was up to. What if he was breaking into the school? I decided to follow him.
Okay, right off the bat, our story just sends it and serves us the story right up.
And at one point, I swear, he turned around and looked right at me. Before I unleash my crazy story onto you, click like and subscribe to stay up to date with all the madness that My Story Animated has in store for you.
Okay, I'll do just that. This is great content, trust me.
Climbing into a tornado shelter after my crush, with absolutely no plan of what I'd do next. But I couldn't see anything, so I used the flashlight on my phone and realized he'd already gone down the stairs.
Isn't it just strange how she started following him just like that because she had a crush on him with absolutely no idea where he was going? What if he was a serial killer and he was just leading her on?
The rain was really pouring now, so I closed the lid. The last thing I wanted was to flood the shelter. Not on a special night like tonight. I'd never been this close to James before.
And you're following him down a shelter? You don't even know what type of person he is.
We weren't alone. As soon as I closed the lid, I heard a girl's voice. No! I started panicking and decided this had been a stupid idea. I pushed the lid to climb back out, but it wouldn't open. No matter how hard I pushed it, it didn't budge.
I like how this is gradually playing out like a typical horror movie where you go through a door and you are sure the knobs were working before you went through that door, and once you go through it, all of a sudden when you're trying to get out, it doesn't work anymore and you're stuck inside. And then you have to find your way out through God knows what.
If it had just been me and James down there, it would have been quite exciting. But suddenly I heard a kissing sound and I realized my worst nightmare had just come true. I was stuck in a tornado shelter with my crush and his girlfriend by the sounds of things.
Oh, this is getting interesting.
I could hear them laughing, and then the girl said, "Did anyone see you come in here? I hope we didn't get caught." And James replied, "No, I don't think so. Oh no, wait, there was a girl from my school, but she wouldn't say anything. She's such a loser."
So he did notice her following him in the rain before he went down into the shelter, and he did wink at her, but only because he thought she was a loser? What's the point of leading her on if you thought she was a loser anyway?
I had to cover my face. I wanted to cry. It felt like he'd shoved a knife through my heart. And what would my parents think when they found out? I gave the lid one final push, but I pushed too hard. The next moment, I lost my footing and was rolling down the stairs. I landed with a thump and blacked out for a second.
What are you talking about? How can you even push the latch so hard from that angle that you fall down backwards? It's as if the person who made the story totally forgot about the platform you stand on before you reach out to open the latch or the doors at the top or whatever. Then he just drew only stairs all the way up to the latch of the door at the top. That's not how these things work in real life.
When I opened my eyes, James and his girlfriend were standing over me. They didn't even ask me if I was okay. James just looked down at me and said, "Did you follow me here? What are you playing at?"
Bro, you just winked at her before going down there. You knew she was following you all along and you didn't say anything until now. Why?
I could hear James bashing on the lid of the shelter, but obviously it wouldn't open. And then he shouted down to me and asked if I'd done this and if I thought it was funny. No, James, I did not find this funny. I wanted to shout up at him. Gosh, what would he say if he knew how much I wished I were his girlfriend and not that dumb blonde girl?
What? You're not even bothered about being stuck in a room with total strangers? She seems to have her priorities mixed up. Just a while ago, she was trying to leave and thinking of what her parents would say, and now all of a sudden she's thinking about being his girlfriend. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that's how the mind of a woman works.
And he started shouting about how he had to get out ASAP because the next day was his big football game that was going to guarantee him a scholarship to a top college. I was shivering, like properly freezing cold. My phone was on 10%. Not that it mattered. There was absolutely no signal down there anyway. I didn't even have a bottle of water on me, and by the looks of things, James and his girlfriend had nothing either. Oh man.
So at this point, they're all stuck and her phone is down with no signal and a low battery already. But why are the other two just walking around without cell phones or anything? And if there was no way to exit the shelter, why wasn't any sign put at the top to tell people not to go down there since it's a school environment or something? Why wasn't any sign put at the top?
I was so scared of what they'd say to me. They were arguing, and James's girlfriend came right up to me and said, "This is all your fault. You've ruined everything."
Why? She didn't know he was coming to meet you in the first place. What are you even doing down here anyway? Couldn't you find anywhere else to meet him? Like a room?
James told her to try and calm down, and I learned her name was Amy. She must have gone to another school because I'd never seen her before. Neither of them had signal either.
Okay, so they all have cell phones and none of them has signal. How convenient.
And soon they started screaming for help. I didn't want to tell them it was pointless. The rain was so loud, no one would hear us even if they were right above us.
There are two buildings right outside the shelter. Why did they choose to come down here? Couldn't they have just gone into any of the buildings?
Eventually, I told them I was sorry, even though it wasn't my fault. I lied and told them I'd been trying to shelter from the rain because I'd forgotten my umbrella, but Amy didn't buy it. She said, "Yeah, right. You're clearly a stalker. Do you get kicks out of watching other people making out or something?"
Well, at least she got one thing right. Obviously, she's a stalker. She was stalking him all along because she had a crush on him. That serves you right, loser. And then the rain intensified, and since there was no way for them to leave the shelter, they ended up just spending the night in there.
I covered my ears because I was afraid I'd hear them kissing, and eventually I must have fallen asleep because the next moment I found myself waking up to hearing a rustling sound. I looked over at Amy, and even though I couldn't see anything, I knew she was eating something. I could hear her. Then I noticed there was a light switch outside the toilet. I clicked on it, not expecting it to work, and suddenly the whole shelter was flooded with light. Amy quickly pulled the blanket up and told me to look away. Oh my gosh, were they not wearing clothes? Then Amy just laughed and said everyone knows that body heat is the best way to survive in cold weather.
Okay, moving on.
Ew! Once they got dressed, I realized how pretty Amy was, and it really annoyed me.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way I should be mad about being stuck in a shelter with total strangers. The only problem is they definitely shouldn't be prettier than me. That's not allowed. Then they start feeling hungry since it's already morning, and they start looking around the shelter for something to eat. And then James finds some old bottles of water under some of the rubble. Both of them drink it, but Amy refuses, and immediately after that, they find themselves rushing to the toilet to vomit. I mean, of course, what more did you expect? The water was old. It's been there for probably months. Who knows how long it's been there?
Not exactly what I had in mind for our first date together.
Oh, I didn't know it was a date. Let's just ignore his girlfriend and pretend she doesn't exist.
Amy got seriously annoyed and even tried to drag James out of the bathroom. Was she jealous? And then I noticed an empty soda bottle behind the toilet. Had Amy secretly had a bottle of soda and not told us? How selfish.
Yeah, she hid the bottle of soda and whatever she was eating at night in her shirt while she was coming down here with James. That's what normal people do when they're going on dates.
And then nighttime came, and James and Amy got into a huge fight. Secretly, it made me happy to see them argue. James deserved better.
Oh yeah, definitely. He deserves a stalker. He deserves someone that will follow him wherever he's going without him knowing. Next thing, James get mad because he missed his football game and he can't go to his new school, but then Amy says he can come to her school instead, but he doesn't want to go to her school, so then they disagree and everything just goes downhill from there.
I heard someone saying my name. I opened my eyes and could see James. He said he could hear my teeth chattering and that I should come and share their blanket. But if Amy woke up and saw me, she'd go mental. So I climbed under the blanket next to him. Our legs were almost touching. And of course, that woke Amy up. And when she saw me, I thought she was going to explode. James wanted to keep the peace, so he snuggled into her and left me lying there all alone.
What is going on? What am I even watching?
And during the night, I decided to try and get closer to him. I rolled over until I was almost right at his back.
Why? Why would you even lie on the same bed as James and his girlfriend? You just follow them down here and you don't even know them. You follow them for no reason and now you're sleeping on the same bed with them?
And I heard something. They were kissing. I was watching them, wishing it was me he was kissing.
Chai. And then they spent some more days down in the shelter and I'm wondering why no one from the school came down to look for them. No one bothered to come down and check what was going on in the shelter. No one even bothered to look around for 3 missing students. I mean, it's not like just one person is missing. There are 3 missing students in the entire school and no one is actually concerned. It's as if their classmates just totally forgot about them and just went on doing whatever classmates do. And then James started flirting with the redhead girl. Every time his girlfriend was asleep, they would hold hands together and he even gave her some biscuits, which I don't know where those came out from, but they just miraculously appeared for some reason. At every point, the story just gives us something to suit the plot without even thinking of how logical it is to the story. Like how they've been in a shelter for multiple days. It could have been a week by now, who knows? But they've just been kissing conveniently without even having a bath or brushing their teeth. I mean, okay, maybe I'm just thinking too much.
But for some reason, Amy still looked good. That day I noticed she didn't get up. It was like she'd given up on shouting for help, but it bothered me. Why should she get to sit there and chill? So I told her I'd just seen a huge spider. And I've never seen her run so fast.
Yeah, we're all scared of spiders. Spiders have that effect on everyone.
Under where she'd been sitting was a loose part of the floorboard. I lifted it up and couldn't believe what I was seeing. There was so much stuff down there. Beauty products, food, a battery pack.
Wait, what? How did she even get all of that in there? Has she been living there before? What is even going on right now?
Gosh, what was going on? I didn't have time to put the floorboard back before James appeared to find the spider. I whispered that Amy had been hiding stuff. James came running over and pulled out her phone. He knew her password and typed it in quickly.
Oh, so this was a setup all along. Wow.
As he was reading them and I was eating one of her secret chocolate bars,
Like how she's still eating her chocolates while all this drama is going on.
she came down the stairs. "What are you doing?" she screamed, but it was too late. We'd caught her red-handed.
She's not even bothered with what's happening. She's just really focused on making sure she finishes that chocolate she's eating.
She tried to grab her phone back from James, but he wouldn't give it to her. Eventually, she broke down and said that she didn't want James to leave her for college, so she'd planned this.
And then while they were sorting their issues, the redhead girl went through Amy's things and then she found the key in Amy's socks. So all along she had the key while all this was happening and she didn't even bother at all.
Then I turned to James and said, "She's been hiding this key the whole time."
Why? Why go through all this stress because you didn't want him to go to school and leave you? It doesn't even make any sense. Problem with stories like this is even after getting to the end, I still can't find any moral to be learned here. Are we supposed to not go on dates with our girlfriends? What is this moral of the story here? At the end, the guy just breaks up with his girlfriend and then he kisses the red-haired girl and everything just returns to normal and the story just ends right there. There wasn't even any decent moral lesson for the audience to learn. Anyways, that's all I have for you today. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you very much. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you're new here. And right now, I'm going to find someone to stalk. I will see you in the next video. Peace.